Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started. We have some people that will keep joining us. And so again, if you're welcome to kind of play around with your own settings as we go through this, toggling to find different views, to see everybody or just the speaker. I'm actually going to start sharing my screen at this point. And so I'm going to have someone, how about Corey, because I think you know how to unmute yourself. You want to unmute yourself and tell us what you see.
Okay, so I had to open, when you went to share screen, I see you in big, all full screen, and then I see 6 people in my corner. I originally had seen like 20, 25.
Yeah, okay.
But I was toggling, so.
Okay. So we're gonna try this, and just want to say this is meant to be kind of an informal learning experience. We're going to talk through some things and give you a chance to try things as we're going along. And so again, if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat box, and Nicole Lezin's going to keep an eye on that, or we'll take turns keeping an eye on that and try to answer them as we go along. Or if there are many things that we're unable to get to today, then we will look at scheduling follow-up sessions like this. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We were so happy to see the huge response to the email invitation that went out yesterday, because we planned this and scheduled it with fairly short notice, and had over, I think, 130 people as of this morning that had signed up to join us live this morning or get the recording later. So it's clearly a timely and pressing need right now, with all of us trying to adjust our work habits and still find ways to connect with each other, both through work and our personal lives, our social lives. So this is a great option. And let's get going here. And I'm going to start just by introducing myself and my colleague Nicole Lezin, just so you know who we are and what our role is. And so, again, I'm Nicole Young. Nicole, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yes, and I'm Nicole Lezin. Welcome, everyone.
And some of you may know us from different roles and hats we wear in the community. Today, we are wearing our core hats, meaning we are the lead consultants facilitating a countywide initiative called Core Investments, which is really about trying to bring different people together in different ways, develop a shared vision, common goals, find new and different ways to work together so that we can find creative ways to improve health and well-being for all people in our community across the lifespan. And so we have many different partners that are involved, both county agencies and city governments, local funders like the Community Foundation and United Way, lots of different nonprofits like Community Bridges and Second Harvest Food Bank. So many more than I'll mention today, but it really is this collective impact type of effort. And so these trainings that we do are one way to just build shared knowledge, some common skills, as a way to build capacity across all these different organizations and efforts. And we are working towards kind of creating this collection or menu of learning opportunities that we can make available both virtually like this. Eventually, we hope to resume doing them in person. I know some of you have attended some of our trainings before. And that kind of broader, more robust set of trainings and learning opportunities that we'll start offering or having other trainers offer, are what we're calling part of this Core Institute for Innovation and Impact. So this is still in its early stages. This Core Coffee Chat you're actually our first audience. But we hope to offer more of these kinds of informal learning opportunities virtually for now. And the topics and the speakers will vary each week, but again, some of them will be skill-based like this, others will just be information and resource sharing. So now that you've signed up for this, you are pretty much on our email list for forever, unless you tell us to leave you alone. Okay, I'm going to ask everybody to quickly, we're going to do a joint practice of unmuting ourselves. Everybody can unmute themselves all at once. I'm going to say a hello, good morning, all at the same time, and you can wave if you have your camera on and say hi to everybody. So go ahead and do that, and then after you've done that, mute yourself again.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Are you still wanting to share your screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll see that, and I'll tell you when we get later into the session, I'll tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Okay, everybody go ahead and mute yourselves again. Okay, and now we're going to ask you to introduce yourself in the group chat box. So does everybody see, can you see my mouse hovering over a chat icon at the bottom of my screen?
Yes.
Great. So see if you can find that icon at the bottom of your screen, which will open up a kind of pop-up box, and you'll see that Nicole Lezin just typed in, hi everyone. So type in your name and what organization or group you're representing today. So hi Lisa from Community Bridges. Ellen from the Housing Authority. And so you'll see lots of names scrolling by. And part of the reason why we're doing this is so that we can see who's on here. We'll be able to save this chat thread when we're done with this meeting, so we can go back and see who was on the call, make sure that everybody gets a copy of today's recording. I see a lot of new names that I don't recognize, so it's nice to have some, to meet new people as well. Hi, Jenna from United Way. So it looks like also we have not only a lot of different people, but different types of agencies. I see some social service agencies, people from county agencies, people from environmental agencies. So it's also nice to see people from, different sectors as well. Okay, so that's actually a little practice about how to use the chat box. And so again, Nicole Lezin will be keeping an eye on that throughout the session, or we'll take turns doing that so that if there's a burning question there, we can try to catch it and answer it in real time.
And Nicole, just to reiterate that you can send a message to everyone or to a particular person, to one of us or each other. There's a, in the to box with the blue oval, you can choose, but be careful with it to choose who you're going to send to. So if you want to send a message privately, just be careful that you're not sending it to everyone. And I've been communicating privately with people who have a particular question. So that just reminded me that that's another way to use chat.
Okay. I just switched to my iPad and I can't see myself in all the masses of pictures. Or I do now. I see myself. Okay, I'm good.
Take just a second. Yeah, and usually if you're the speaker, your own little video tile will either get highlighted in kind of a neon yellow color or green, or it'll appear big depending on what kind of view you have. Okay, I'm gonna keep muting everybody. Okay, and so now I'm going to launch a poll just so we can get a sense of how familiar everybody is with Zoom. So the first question, so you should see two questions there. First one being, how many Zoom meetings have you participated in before today? Meaning you weren't the one running the meeting, hosting the meeting. How many Zoom meetings have you hosted where you were the one that actually scheduled and facilitated it before today's session? So I'm going to give you another few seconds to answer. Okay. I'm going to give you, if you still haven't answered yet, I'm going to give you about 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. And so now I'm going to close the poll and share the results with you. So nod your head if you can see the poll results on my screen. Okay. So it looks like in terms of participating in Zoom meetings, quite a few of you have participated in between 1 and 5 meetings, but also a quarter of you have not participated in any at all before today. And so, so hopefully you'll find today's session really helpful because we're going to walk through a lot of the basic features, kind of figure out how to get around in Zoom, how do you do things like mute and unmute yourself or turn on your camera, things like that. And then, not surprisingly, most of you are saying that you have not hosted a Zoom meeting before today. So we'll also talk about some of the differences between what you'll see or be able to do if you're a participant versus a host. But there are other things about hosting meetings that would probably make for a good follow-up or another coffee chat where we can focus more specifically on that, because there are a couple differences there. Okay, so now I'm going to stop sharing the results, and I will say, just for the sake of the recording, that for people watching this afterward that were not able to join us live, the poll itself and the poll results do not show up in the recording. So just know that too. If you are hosting a meeting and recording it, which we are doing now, we are recording this so that we can make this available both for anybody that wants to watch it again afterwards or for people that weren't able to join us live today. And you'll know that a session is recording. If you look, you should see up in the top, again, top left of your screen, do you see a little blinking red circle there? That tells you that the session is being recorded. Okay. And so just know that if you say something or do something on your camera, that it will be preserved for, for a long time and shared with others. Okay, so we actually then just practiced a few of the key features in Zoom. And those are probably some of the more common ones that are used, using the chat, being able to mute and unmute yourself. We thought it'd be good to kind of practice using a few more of the settings just so that you're familiar with it. And so the reason why I'm sharing my screen with you is that I think, if I'm right, you can see my control panels down here. Is that right? So like if I'm clicking on that little arrow, you're seeing what pops up. That's so that if you want to follow along and try the same steps on your control panel, you can do that. You might see slightly different things because I'm logged in as a host of this meeting versus you're a participant, but a lot of these are the same. So we talked before about how you can mute or unmute yourself. Like right now, I'm going to mute myself by clicking on that icon. You can also access a few more audio settings by clicking on that little up arrow next to the microphone. So you can see that I'm using a headset as my microphone and a headset as my speakers. For me, it just is better sound quality, helps minimize some of the feedback and background noise. If you are wanting to mute or unmute yourself, and if you are really into keyboard shortcuts, you know how like if you're using Microsoft Office, you can either use your mouse to find different features like copy, save, paste. You can either use your mouse to, you know, find options on a menu, or you can use your keyboard, like Control S for save. Well, there are things you can do in Zoom also with keyboard shortcuts. Like if you want to mute yourself, I can mute myself by I have a Windows PC. So on my keyboard, I can press Alt-A. And I just muted and unmuted myself. If you have a Mac, your keyboard shortcut is Shift plus Command plus A. So you can try it if you want. Sometimes people find it easier to just use your mouse to click the icon. Sometimes I use the keyboard shortcuts if I'm in a meeting and I'm typing, because I'm taking notes while we're having the meeting, and I find it easier to just keep my hands on the keyboard and use the keyboard shortcut. So it's really just a matter of preference and what's easiest. Okay. If you are the host, you do have the option to mute all participants. And so have you been seeing the little message box that pops up when I'm muting everybody? Do you see a little box? No? So maybe that's only appearing for me. You can, when you're scheduling a meeting as a host, you can choose the option to mute all participants when they initially join. I forgot to check that option before everybody joined the meeting and before I started the meeting. So I basically, whenever I hear people joining the meeting, I'm clicking mute all in my participant box. Can you see the participant box on my screen? I see some heads nodding. I see some shaking no. So right now I've opened up. Let me try that again. Do you see down, see how on my control panel mine says manage participants? Yours probably says, it just probably says participants, right? So if I click on that, it opens up a box. And so I can see all of the participants. Right now you're all muted. I could also unmute everybody at the same time.
Either is Rocio.
So you can see why that's helpful to mute everybody, right? Because we can't always control the amount of noise in the background or what's going on around us, especially these days with so many people that are trying to also homeschool their kids, right? And so anytime that I'm hearing a bell ding, meaning that someone has joined, or I'm hearing background noise that I know is not me, I'm clicking mute all just to make sure that that it stays quiet for everyone. Okay. Okay, if you want, you can try clicking on, if you haven't already, click on your icon that says participants, and then you should be able to see also who else is on the call. Do you see a participant box pop up for you? Great. Okay, and then some of the things that we thought would be helpful to cover too, because these are some of the more frequent things that can go awry in a Zoom meeting, is when people do join and maybe you do need to have everybody have their microphones on, but then you hear, have you ever been in a Zoom meeting where then you hear like echoes or feedback, or then it becomes really hard to hear each other? Has that ever happened to anybody? And so there are a couple common reasons why that can happen. And so we'll kind of walk through some of the fixes for that. So usually that happens if, or sometimes that'll happen if someone has joined the Zoom meeting and they have joined using their computer audio, meaning they've selected their microphone and speakers that are built into or attached to their computers to hear and speak, but they might have also called in to the Zoom meeting using the phone number. And so then what happens is the speaker on the phone and the speaker on the computer, they're both picking up too much sound. And so it creates that echo and that feedback. So what it means is that you just need to always remember to choose one or the other for your audio or sound. Okay. So if you happen to join either today's meeting or a meeting and you have joined both your computer audio and you've dialed in by phone, then if you want to continue using your computer microphone and speakers, just hang up the phone, and it's as simple as that, and that should help. If you want to continue using your phone for your audio, it means that you need to deactivate your audio from the computer. And so this is how you would do it. First, you would want to make sure that your audio, your phone audio, and your video are joined together. And I'm just going to quickly look to see. It looks like everybody is already joined where both your phone, if you're on the phone, both your phone and your video are already connected. Sometimes what happens is someone will join and watch the Zoom meeting on their screen, on their computer, but they've also called in, and so they didn't enter a participant ID number when they dialed in, and so they appear as a name. For instance, maybe Nancy Sherrod would appear as a name, but then if Nancy had also called in on her phone number would basically appear as another tile, like it's another person. So there would be like a video screen, computer you, and a phone you that are treated as two different people. And that really only matters or makes a difference if you are in a meeting like we're going to do today, where you'll be using breakout rooms, or you're hosting a meeting where you're using breakout rooms. The video you and the phone you then get treated as two different people and get sent to two different rooms. And so you want to make sure that your computer you and your phone you are joined together. Okay. And so if you had, let's say that you joined already by your computer audio and you called in by phone, what you would want to do is make sure that your phone you has been joined to your computer name. And so you would want to make sure that you have entered in your participant ID number. Okay, so again, if you are first joining the meeting and you decided that you want to listen in using your phone, you would be going through these steps. You would dial the number, you would enter the meeting ID number when you're prompted. Then when it asks you for a participant number, you would enter your participant number. It's a unique number for each person. So my participant ID is 65. You will each have a different participant number for this meeting. So when you're dialing in, you'll get prompted to enter the participant number and then pound, and then that connects you to the video you. If you joined the meeting and you selected computer audio, but then you dialed in again after that, and you're on the phone, you would just need to, before you leave your computer audio, go back to your phone and press pound, your participant ID, and pound again. So pound, participant ID, pound, and then your phone and your video get joined together as one person. Does that make sense? Thumbs up or nodding head? Okay, because then once you've joined your phone and your computer audio, then you can leave your computer audio. I'm not going to do that right now because then that would disconnect my microphone and my speakers. But then in order to prevent the echo and feedback from continuing, you would need to leave your computer audio so that the computer isn't still picking up sound from your phone. Okay, so just remember, it's always one or the other. It's either microphone and speaker through your computer or through your phone. Otherwise, it can create a lot of feedback. Okay, sometimes the issue too is just that your volume, if you're using your computer audio, sometimes the volume on your speakers is just up too high. And so it's picking up a lot of feedback as you're talking and creates that echo. Okay, so I think I'm going to hand it over at this point to Nicole to tell us a little bit more about different ways you can participate non-verbally through your participant box.
All right, can everyone hear me? Just nod or, okay, great. So the participant box that you opened earlier that should be either open right now as a little panel on your screen, or if it's not yet, you can click the participants, the silhouettes at the bottom middle of your screen, and you will see something like what's on Nicole's screen. Does everyone have that? So a list of the people, and if you scroll down, you can see everybody in alphabetical order, and whether they're muted or videoed and so forth. And underneath that, in the middle here, you can see a check mark that says yes. Nicole, when you're muting everyone, you're muting me.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. So I was just explaining that at the bottom of the participants box, you see the icons that you can see right now on Nicole's screen. The only difference is that she can see how many of us have checked those things. So the options are, these might be a little different on your screen as on hers, but on mine, I have an option to raise my hand. Do people have a blue hand on underneath their participants? I can see some nodding, thumbs up, yeah. So the blue hand is to raise your hand to say something. Many of you are clicking it right now, I can see on Nicole's screen. And that just is in a group conversation, especially a smaller one that doesn't have 100 people on it. It's the same way that you would raise your hand in a real life meeting to say, hey, I've got something to say or to interject. And that way the facilitator can know that somebody wants to comment and he or she can unmute you at that point. The yes is just an agreement. So it's almost like a mini poll. Do people agree with this or see this? You're seeing a message. Some of you have been chatting about seeing a message on Nicole's screen about the internet connection being unstable. That's just a bandwidth issue that can happen, so don't worry about it. If her internet goes out, the meeting will continue, and just sit tight and it'll come back. So as we said earlier, it's just an example of the kinds of glitches we are probably going to be dealing with as more and more people try to use this limited bandwidth. So anyway, you can raise your hand, you can say, yes, I agree. You can say, no, I don't agree. You can ask a speaker to go slower or faster. Those are the gray and blue circles. And then if you click on the more, Nicole, can you click on more to show? Yeah. So that's another option. You can do the thumbs up, thumbs down. You can applaud. The coffee cup means I need a break. And the clock is I need to step away. And you don't have to say how long, it just means I'm still connected to your meeting, but I'm not in front of my screen or mic. So these are all icons that you can get more familiar with, but you can also use them as a host or a participant to communicate without necessarily having to type things into that chat. So a question in the chat is, does the yes or no poll get aggregated and shared? Thanks for that question, Julie. Not necessarily. So that you can see from Nicole's screen that the host has an option to see the tallies of how many people are raising their hands or saying yes or no or whatever's being asked. But the host doesn't have to share that. The host may choose to, but it's not like a poll where it's an automatic graph, like a bar graph that's easy to share. It's just showing you these little numbers that you see on Nicole's screen over the icons. So it's really more of a tool for the facilitator and host of the meeting to get a sense, to take the pulse of the group without having to do necessarily a poll or a verbal or a chat. So, so that's just available to you both as a host and as a participant. And it's a way to get each other's attention. So let's move down to the chat itself. Many of you have been using the chat, and I'm trying to answer questions as they come up. But if you haven't already, please click on the chat, which is a little quote box, and that should open up a panel just like the one you just saw. On my screen, they're tiled, but yours might be different. So Nicole, can you open up your chat? There it is. Okay, so you should see something that looks like this, and it's with this many people, it's a little hard to keep up because it just keeps scrolling with lots of comments. So Bill asked, how long do the icon numbers stay? I don't know the answer to that. So if anyone happens to know, just add in the,
So I think the icon numbers stay until participants change their answer.
I think that's right. So you can only do one at a time. So when you say yes, if you later say no, it'll replace the prior yes. And so Bill, you're saying your thumbs up was staying on your, what you can see that you answered. Okay. So in the chat, as I mentioned earlier, you can send a chat message to everyone. So the little blue, the little to box can go to everyone, or it can go to an individual. And with this many people, you can automatically start searching for a name by just starting to type in that box, and it will look for the person to send a private message to. You can also attach files here, and so I'm going to send to everyone a link to the Zoom Help Center. Sorry, I've got health on the brain. Okay, so you can attach a PDF or a Word document, or send a link to a place like the Zoom Help Center, which I have to say has great tutorials and a lot more information than we can give you in this hour. But the chat is basically to communicate either with the host, with everyone who's participating, or with an individual who you choose.
And Nicole, there are a couple other questions that were coming through in the chat. I'm thinking maybe before we do a quick demo of the breakout rooms, maybe we can answer a few more of those just to make sure that we got to some of the more kind of pressing ones. There was one about how do you know what your participant ID number is? If that's still a question for someone, you can always find it's in the, it should appear once you try to join a meeting, and if you select join by phone, it'll appear. Or once you're in the meeting, if you need to find it, click on the little up arrow next to the microphone at the bottom of your screen. And if you select switch to phone audio, that's when that same little box pops up with all the phone numbers. In this case, you wouldn't need to dial in. You would just find your participant ID number in that box. Okay. So you don't actually see your participant ID in the original meeting invitation for Zoom. It only contains the meeting link and the meeting ID number. Once you've clicked on that link, it's identifying you as a unique individual, and then you get a participant number. And then I think Nicole already answered the one about how long do icon numbers stay. Are there any other burning questions before we move on? Anything that anyone is? I think I just covered the how do you get your participant ID number. Nicole Lezin is answering the question about hosting. Okay, so I would say if you have other questions, keep typing them in the chat box, because what we'll do after today's session too is if we didn't get to someone's question, we'll send out more links and information and answer your questions when we send out the recording. Because before we finish up today, we wanted to show you one of the other kind of cool features that some of us have just recently started to learn how to use, called breakout rooms. And so the breakout rooms is just like, let's say you're in an in-person meeting and your team or your meeting facilitator says, okay, now everybody break into groups of 3 or 4 and talk about this question, and everybody, you know, gathers around and has a little discussion, and then they come back and share what came out of that. You can do the same thing in Zoom with the breakout room feature. And so that the breakout rooms is something, if you have one of the basic or free accounts, you can use breakout rooms, as well as if you have a paid account. So it's not something, it's not a feature that you have to pay for in order to use. You do have to make sure that that feature is enabled in for that meeting when you schedule it. So in your Zoom account, you actually have to change a setting so that you can create breakout rooms. So in a moment, I'll show you how to do that. But right now, I'm going to actually give you a chance to practice being in or experience what it's like being in a breakout room. And so again, hopefully you can see what's happening on my screen as I'm getting these breakout rooms ready to launch. So I'm in my control panel, I'm clicking on more. Oops. Oh, breakout rooms. Okay. And so I can see I have 85 participants in this meeting. And let's see, I want to have fairly small group sizes so that you get a chance to talk to each other. And so for 85 people, I'm going to create 15 rooms. Wouldn't it be nice if we had physical space, physical meeting rooms where we could break people into 15 different rooms? So there'll be about 5 to 6 of you per room. I'm going to automatically assign you to, or Zoom will automatically send you to a room versus me manually deciding who goes to which room. So as soon as I click create rooms, and let me just check, can you all see this little control panel? Okay, great. So as soon as I click create rooms, you will magically get sent to another room with 5 to 6 other people or 4 to 5 other people. And you'll see something very much like what you're seeing right now on your screen, just the video tiles with either someone's face or name. And you can talk to each other. You can unmute yourselves, talk to each other. And I'm actually going to ask you to talk with each other about one tip or technique that you've learned so far this morning that you're going to start using in your meetings. Okay, so I'll give you about 5 minutes to talk with each other in these breakout rooms. You should see a little timer somewhere at the top of your screen that tells you how much time you have left. When it gets down to 4 minutes, I'm going to close the rooms, because then that sends everybody a 1-minute warning that the breakout room is about to close. When that happens, you magically appear back here. This is considered the main session. So everybody automatically just gets sent right back here, even if you are in mid-sentence. Okay, you all ready to try this? Okay, I'll see you in a few minutes. And then for those of you that are watching and listening the recording, you will notice that nothing is appearing. You don't get to see the breakout rooms, but you should be able to see the different groups. And so you can see that I have 15 breakout rooms, and they're, looks like pretty evenly divided, 5 people, 6 people per room. Now, if I wanted to, as the host, I could join a meeting and just drop in. So if I click on join, I could go and join breakout room number 1 and surprise them. So I won't do that right now. If I wanted to broadcast a message to everyone, I can do that by clicking broadcast to all. And so here I'll type in the discussion prompt. I will show you what I'm seeing now in my participant box. I see only me as the host who remains in the main session because everybody else is in their breakout rooms. Okay, so I can see people coming back from their breakout rooms. Can you hear me? And can you see the breakout room box on my screen here? So you can see, so this is what I see as the host. I can see which people are still in the breakout room and which people have left the breakout room and returned to the main session. And I can see that in 2 seconds, 1 second. Now everybody is back.
This is cool.
Okay.
So how was that?
That was great, Nicole.
Yeah, it's pretty cool once you get the hang of it. And so a couple little tips or techniques that I've had to learn the hard way about breakout rooms is that you can't, it's kind of like with the phone or computer audio, you have to choose one or the other. Either have Zoom automatically send people and divide people up among the breakout rooms, or you manually assign people to rooms. I tried it once where I thought, oh, I can manually assign certain people to be like discussion hosts and then automatically assign everybody else, and it doesn't work that way. It doesn't mix and match. So then I had to like physically go through really quickly and try to assign people to the breakout room once I opened it. But once, you know, give it a try a few times. Nicole, Lezin and I often have practice Zoom meetings with each other, or I've had, you know, my kids join Zoom meetings with me so I can test out and get the hang of some of these different features. And so once you get the hang of it, it gets much easier. And so would anyone like to unmute themselves and share the one tip or technique that you've learned so far that you want to start using in your Zoom meetings? So Ashley, I see you raised your hand. Ashley, do you want to unmute yourself and go ahead and share?
Something that was really fun that was in our group had a beautiful background behind her of a field of flowers. So you didn't see how to use that, which was.
Yes, the virtual background. Yeah. Yeah, that's a fun one to play around with too. And maybe, so the way you find that is the little arrow next to the video camera icon, and you can see choose virtual background. And then you have choices here. And depending on what kind of computer you have, you might find that you need a green screen behind you. Because, like for instance, I don't have a green screen behind me. And so when I choose a virtual background, it can do funny things to my, to my face. Can you see that? My kids love playing around with the virtual backgrounds and making themselves look as funny as possible on their videos. And so that's something you can try. Again, I think sometimes depending on the type of computer graphics you have on your computer, you might not need a green screen. So play around with it, try it. Using a static photo. Oh, there, look at Deborah. Got some pretty grass behind her, and now she's out in space. Depending on, oh, so the static photo, I think some people were asking that as well. I believe that's one that you actually have to do in your settings. I think in your online account, you can upload a photo. So like if I stop my video, then you just see my photo. So you can do that. I need to find a better quality photo of myself, meaning higher resolution and quality in terms of how I look. But so, you know, choose a good photo of yourself. Otherwise it can look kind of blurry. Okay. Does anybody else want to share a tip, something that you've learned today?
Indeed, her internet has gone out, so apologies there. As we've mentioned in the chat and during this discussion, I think a lot of us are experiencing problems with internet bandwidth, especially from residential home computer systems, and the ISP providers are working to make that happen. But so just as we wrap up, please feel free to keep sending your questions, and especially topics that you're interested in for future sessions like this. We hope you've found it helpful. We're learning along with you, and just thought if we're finding things of use and trying to delve deeper into Zoom and other tools that other people would too. So we wanted to share that experience as much as possible. And it pushes us to learn more and to become better at using these features like breakout groups. So I will post a few resources in the chat to everyone, but I encourage you, if for Zoom or there are other tools, we just happen to use Zoom, but there are others that you might prefer. They all have tutorials and help centers, and they're all trying to ramp up helping people use these in more effective ways. And they understand that there's a lot of different levels of skill and experience in using these. So I think there are a lot of different ways to get better at this, but as Nicole said, practicing just even with one other person, playing around with the features when it's low stakes and not being recorded and not in front of a whole group is a great way to figure things out and iron out some of the kinks. But please keep sending your ideas for future topics. I see a lot of them coming up here. We will send you a link after this with the recording. So you'll have that if you want to review that or share it with others. And then we'll keep in touch with all of you. We have your emails from our generic mailing list. So we'll keep you apprised of the next one. We'll pick a couple of these topics to get into in more depth. And then I will go ahead and send these 3 links from the, one is about the attendee controls, and another one is about how to control the echo from audio. That's some of the things that Nicole Young went over. And then also how to mute and unmute, and then the generic help center one. So I'll go ahead and put all 4 of those into the chat, and you can either download them directly. Oops, I hit the send button too fast on that one.
And some folks are asking in the group chat how you use things like the whiteboard, how do you host meetings, how do you create and launch polls. So those are good topics that we can cover in another session. Those are ones that we thought would be good to cover the basics in this first one, make sure some of the typical landmines around Zoom meetings are covered, and then we can offer some subsequent coffee chats on how to use some of those additional features as well. And the links that Nicole Lezin is putting in the chat box are from the Zoom Help Center, which has a lot of good resources and articles and videos that also cover all these same things. And so sometimes it's helpful to just be a self-directed learner and you can figure it out there. But if you like this kind of hands-on practice while we talk about it method, then we'll continue to offer these as well. And so as we have the last few minutes here to wrap up, if anyone wants to ask a final question, feel free to unmute yourself and we'll see if we can answer it for you in the moment. Or if you want to leave your final questions with us in the chat box, we can follow up with those later. But I just want to say before everybody goes that we have enjoyed seeing you this morning. Thanks for being on the call this morning. Asking some great questions, practicing along with us, And I don't know if Nicole Lezin already said that we will send a short survey to you afterwards just to get some feedback about how today's session was for you. It'll help us plan and improve future ones as well. And so if anybody has any questions, feel free to answer them otherwise, or ask them. Otherwise, if you need to move on to your next Zoom meeting or online meeting, have a good day, and we will hopefully see you again soon. So
Thanks,
thank you,
Nicole.
everyone. And Nicole Lezin and I will stay on for just a couple more minutes for anybody that.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
This was really helpful. Thank you.
So
Good.
glad to know that. Thank you. Thanks, Peggy.
Hi, Nicole. Thanks a lot.
Bye, Corey.
Bye, Corey.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Very welcome.
Lisa, you look so relaxed sitting on the beach. I tried to put a photo of one of the photos I took in Australia. I tried to use that as my virtual background, but it just like half my face was cut off, and
my face is pretty distorted in this too, but I'm like, oh, it works.
it's so fun. Yeah. My son likes to play around with it and have it so that, like, you know, the image shows through his teeth in funny ways. Or
Is he home, Nicole?
he is, yeah. Yeah, he's home for the rest of the semester, basically.
Good. Good.
Yeah,
Great.
which is
I do have a question, Nicole.
sure.
Let's see. So I'm supposed to host a meeting this evening, and so right now I'm using my phone for the audio. I don't have video. And the program is already scheduled. Will they notify me and give me a way to connect into the system as a host?
How did you schedule it, Ed? Through Zoom already, or?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So you have a Zoom account?
Yes, I signed up for it.
Mm-hmm. So there's a control panel. When you log into Zoom with your account, it'll show your upcoming meetings, and you can, you have the control to start the meeting. So you will click on it and start the meeting. And you can do that ahead of time, just in case people arrive early like we did today.
Yes, and then it'll show me how to log in with the phone for the audio.
It should have a phone number as well, but you might want to look at the audio echo link that was in the chat. I'll send it again.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, as Nicole mentioned earlier, you're going to get some kind of reverb if you have both a laptop and a phone going. Is your question about doing it just from the phone?
Yes, right now I don't have audio or video on the computer.
Okay. So you're going to host the meeting just from your phone?
Yes, that's how I've been doing it.
Okay.
So what you're saying is log in, they'll show me the meeting, I'll click on that, and that will start it. I do remember clicking a button that says people can check in early, and then you say that there will be a link for the phone, a number to call. So I'll have audio.
I haven't actually hosted a meeting from my phone. Nicole, have you?
I haven't, but Ed, if you would find it helpful, a lot of times what I do is I schedule just a test meeting or a fake meeting, either with myself or with Nicole Lezin or my kids. So if you want to, we can all hang up here in a moment, and maybe we'll just get your phone number in case we need to contact you. If you want to schedule like a fake meeting right now and invite Nicole Lezin and I to it, then you can go through the steps of trying to launch the meeting from your phone and join the audio and see what happens.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I don't want to take your time right now, and I'll do it with one of my team members.
Yeah, okay.
And that's really good information. I really appreciate.
Yeah.
get it set up before I really host the meeting.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
So thank
We
you
do that all
both
the
very
time.
much. I really appreciate your help.
You're
I
welcome.
don't know what we'd do without you.
Good luck tonight.
Okay, this is Ed signing off.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Ed.
Bye, Ed. Good luck.
Thanks.
So I see a few remaining people on the call. Did any of you have some lingering questions too that we can answer before you
This
hop
is
off?
Carol, and I just want to say thank you so much, Nicole and
Oh,
Nicole.
you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
And Carol.
Good
Bye
to hear your
bye.
Sorry
voice,
I came
Carol.
in late. I'm sorry I came in late. I just finished another meeting with our school site, so I was like, no, I needed training on this, but I